The message is actually very simple from Catherine. She's saying we need children, very young children, but especially need a loving and supportive environment. Well, yes. And actually, on the surface of it, that shouldn't be, in most cases, that difficult to provide, should it?
Well, it's expensive. And so how it works is that we get a government funding in the way schools do. But what we do is get a government funding that's 30% short of the actual cost of the place. So therefore, the fees for parents have to be higher just to pay the basics. I run a social enterprise, so I'm not looking to cream off profits or anything. But even still, it's very hard to do that. And also, children from the more disadvantaged families who really benefit from this, they can't afford to access the services because they're not set up in their area. Because we kind of operate in this very fragmented, mixed market approach where people can set things up and actually then try and run them. So there is some level of complexity around the system that really needs to be ironed out. And it's not unknown to the government, and they have, even in their own information from the DFE, have actually acknowledged that the costing are too low. And if you look at places like, I think the Princess went to Denmark not so long ago, parents do pay. It's not that one is wanting the taxpayer to sort of subsidise parents, but it's much more balanced in the way they do pay because the contribution from the taxpayer is more evened. And then when you do the sort of full circle, what do you find? The contributions from the parents who work is more than double to the Treasury, so it pays for itself. You give children a great start in life, you support parents, and you create a kind of childcare infrastructure in society that gives them a real good chance of having a happy time, which is the most important in my view, a happy time in the nursery, and also the parents are relaxed and therefore less stressed. They build a network of kinship and friendships because they get to know each other, and the community becomes more engaged all around. And so it's win-win, but it puts the child right at the centre, Yeah.
June, this may be going off at a tangent slightly, but like an awful lot of people, I get incredibly distressed when I read about the way in which children are abused by their parents very often. We have seen too many young people lose their lives, lose their limbs, lose their entire freedoms as a result of the kind of things that parents have done to them physically and emotionally. Will something like this help in that area as well? Because I think, that is an area that troubles an awful lot of people. And we don't have long to discuss it, I'm sorry, but if you could just tell me if you think it would help.
I think it would help. I think it's a very interesting question to look at, and I think it takes it back to the earlier point about everyone in society has a role to play in everyone else's children, and half the reason some of these children are left abused and abused for a long time is people don't know what to do to step in and to step in and step up and actually find some way of letting people know, because quite often when you do the investigation, people knew that this was going on, but they didn't know what to do. Whereas if you're in a public place like a nursery, you're much more exposed. It's much more open. And we have very strong safeguarding rules around it as well. So I think it's something about change. Hopefully the Princess can change the narrative and make people realise that children are everyone's children.